how can you say, the government, and when you get authorized, when we got that authorization, we had to say no thanks to certain things. I feel we gave way to some very important chiropractic things, Harris and stuff like that. So the crossroads are here now, and we have to decide what we want to do. I mean, I understand there's a bill being passed in England at the moment, or maybe has been passed, and discussions are made on what should chiropractors do. Should they just biomechanical problems, musculoskeletal problems, or should we get into preventive care, or should we, what's the subluxation? All these things that BJ and DD and all these talked a lot about, are we selling out of these things or aren't we? So it's like, we have to make decisions, you know, what we want to do. And Richard said a little bit about, well, there's somebody from the earlier classes here, and you know, I mean, even if you're in the first class, decide these things. I mean, you decided to become a chiropractor, so I mean, even you won't be a chiropractor in 6, you still have to take part in these discussions, because I mean, it's even more your future that's at stake here. So you have to decide, you know, what path are you going to take, or what decision. So I mean, the crossroads are something that everybody's going to take part in and decide what you want to do. This morning I'll start talking about an area that's not something many chiropractors look into, because most chiropractors think like, okay, I want to graduate. Well, actually what they think, they want to pass the next exam, and then they want to pass the next and the next, and they want to finish this year. So you only like have a tendency to think, you know, very short ahead, and not think like long term. So and then I mean, most chiropractors' biggest dream is to get their own clinic, and once they have that, they want to get as many new patients as possible. And I mean, that's when I'm out there at seminars and stuff and run into chiropractors. I mean, when the conversation comes up, first they ask how you're doing, and the second question is how many new patients do you get. So I mean, chiropractors are in a way very how can you say that, limited in their viewpoint, I think. And when does it start? It probably already starts here in the clinic, because I hear people say, God, I'm going to have 40 patients, 40 new patients in clinic to graduate. And then, I mean, 40 patients, well, that's nothing, but it's still, we're always talking about the numbers. And of course, the numbers is like, well, the numbers, that's money. But then when you talk money, chiropractors go, oh, no, well, I mean, it's not ethical to talk about money. So when you ask a chiropractic student, why do you want to be a chiropractor? He goes, I want to help people. I mean, if you want to help people, you should go into Red Cross or something like that. I mean, it's also a business. Chiropractic is also a business. So we have to, you know, kind of divide these things up. What's our plan? Do we just want to go in and have a clinic and just get one patient, another patient, another patient, or do we go out and participate in healthcare in our community? And I think that's where the future in chiropractic lies. I mean, we're going to go out there and make a difference. I mean, I don't think chiropractors should be sitting home in their offices and getting the scrap of the rich man's table, which I call the GPs. Like, we can't live off the patients they can't help. You know, and I feel that many chiropractors work like that. They go like, well, okay, if the GP can't help, maybe we can help. I mean, why shouldn't we be the first when there's a back problem or a neck problem or a subluxation? We should be the first ones to get that. So what we have to look into is, we're going to get in contact with what I call healthy people. You don't have to wait to get the sick people, because I think chiropractic is a lot to do with wellness and health and being healthy, and not curing people for problems or adjusting when they have the problem. I think prevention is one of the big words in chiropractic. And I know that in certain chiropractic areas that's a swear word, but I don't care, because I definitely think that chiropractors can compare themselves with dentists. We are probably about 30 years behind dentists. I mean, if you look at your grandparents, they probably don't have one tooth in their mouth, because prevention in the dental area wasn't a big thing when they were kids. So when they are about 60 years old, there's not a tooth left. Then have dentures and stuff like that, or they just go like that. But But we have all the teeth, at least, well, Richard told me this morning, I mean, he only lost about 5 of his. He comes from Ireland, so I don't think have a very good dental thing there. But see, and I see the same thing in chiropractic. I mean, like now when we look at the stats, there's some very grim statistics up there. It's a lot of my material comes from the States, and don't worry about that. But I mean, it's basically the same kind of numbers. You just have to divide them up. But here's some of the statistics. You know, like there is a lot of people out there with back problems, and these statistics at the moment are definitely not getting better. They're only getting worse every day. And one of the reasons they're getting worse is that people is getting more and more stationary jobs, like sitting on the job. I mean, people would think that people who sit down a lot wouldn't get as many problems as people who's in hard labor, but that's not the truth. 2/3 of everybody who gets a low back problem, of anyone who gets a low back problem, is sitting at the job, doesn't have a physical job. And I mean, with computers and everything and robots and stuff, I mean, the tendency in the work area is that people sit more and move around less. I mean, I'll get into some of these things later today with the kids. I mean, we'll see kids at 6, 7 years old getting into working with computers. I mean, like, what's his name? Labor's, what's his name? The guy who's head of labor? Yeah, Tony Blair. He said something about that. One of the things they want to get into in the educational program, if they come to power, is that every kid should have access to a computer. So, I mean, everybody who's been sitting typing up a report or something like that on a computer knows how that affects the neck and how you get tension. So, I'll be getting into that later with the kids, but I mean, if you start 7, 8 years old working on a computer, I mean, how will you feel when you're 18, 19? And so on and so on. But I feel that a lot of the future of chiropractic lies outside the clinic. I think it lies out in the community, and that basically lies out in the companies. We have to get into the companies where the injuries actually happen, where people get sick, and like, let's see if I can work this thing. When workers aren't there, business doesn't work. So I mean, we're gonna, of course, first of all, we're gonna sell ourselves to the manager of these companies, because I mean, their reason for getting somebody in the company is, of course, to get less sick days, because when the workers aren't there, the business doesn't work. So maybe their reason is very commercial, but that doesn't really matter as long as we're in there helping people. And that's what I'll be talking a lot about this morning. 3 years ago, I was working happily in my little clinic, and I got contacted by a big company. It's called SID. It's the biggest union in Denmark. They got about 375,000 members. And their administration got about between 600 and 700 employees. The first thing they asked me if I could come and give a speech on chiropractic, tell what I could do for these people. And of course, I thought that was a big thing to do, and I went up there and told them about it, and they were very interested in it, and the manager came up afterwards, the director, and said maybe we could set up a plan for these people, because I mean, their stats was almost like that. A lot of people was calling in sick, and due to the fact is they are working a lot with computers. It's like sitting on the job gives you a lot of problems. It gives you neck problems, headaches, low back problems, arm pain, all that kind of stuff that we help. That's what we say. That's what chiropractic can do something about. So we set up a plan for this business, and the plan was started basically was giving all the employees a questionnaire. I got a lot of material brought along. A lot of it is in Danish. I know there's quite a few Danish students here, so maybe some of you English people or who don't speak Danish could have them translate some of this stuff, and then maybe it could be circled around afterwards. But what we did was we made up a questionnaire, where we asked all the employees to tell us, I mean, basically from the smallest thing to the biggest thing. Of course, we got into health, we got into the back pain problems, we got into neck pain problems, diseases in general, but also we got in asking them, are you satisfied with your chair, are you satisfied with your table? Ergonomics is a big thing, of course, when you get into businesses. I will be, in this lecture, getting into some ergonomics, trying to teach you some of the basics. But then again, ergonomics, it's also called work law, and I mean, it's just base common sense. Chiropractic is very good in ergonomics because chiropractic is built on common sense. So, I mean, we are very good at it. Actually, we are the best to take care of industrial health. No doubt about it. I mean, I can see that now in all the companies I come in and work with. Now I got about 8 companies working with, I got chiropractors work for me, and I see that a lot of these companies had physios before, they had people working in the ergonomic field before, and once the chiropractor get in there, I mean, then the results start to show. So, I mean, obviously we know something that the rest of the pack doesn't know. So, I mean, that's a nice thing to know. But then we go in and the patient kind of just fill this out, or the employee fill this out, and they talk about, then we got about 10 questions for the chair, 10 questions for the table. So the patients, the employee tell us, can the chair go up and down, can you tilt it, can you do this and that? Because it's important for us to know where is the cause of the problem. So at the end of the day, you look at the questionnaire and this patient suffers from headaches. Then you go and you see everybody in this special area of this plant or this office all suffers from headaches. Then you look back in the questionnaire and you see, oh, they all complain because the lighting is bad in this area, or they complain that the air in this area is thick or whatever. So you can correlate these things. And I think an important thing for chiropractors, we have to know more than just setting bones. You know, we have to know why the bones get out of place. We have to know why people get tension, because it's not enough somebody comes into the office and they go, well, you got a subluxation in the atlas axis region, and you just pop it and then send them out again. You're going to find out why did it occur? You know, how can you teach this patient not to get it again? And that's again getting back to prevention, getting back to some of the things I'll cover later as well. Is do we cure patients, or do we just take care of a problem that's here now? I mean, I don't think there's a cure for back pain, because I don't think back pain is a symptom. I think it's something that occurs when you do something wrong. If you sit in the wrong way, I mean, with crossed legs, or you slump in your chair, or you have your phone here. And the chances that the employee will probably go out and do that again, and again, and again. So it's like, so we have, when we treat a patient, we have to get into knowing why the problem occurred. So ergonomics is important even though you don't go out and work in a compound. I mean, you have to know these things. You have to understand ergonomics or work law. Anyway, then finally, you know exactly, you got all the questionnaires back and you have an idea what's the main cause of days lost at work. Why are people sick in this company? Is it mainly low back problem? Is it mainly neck problem? But what you see in most companies is that more than 60% of these days are back related. And you know, that's good. I mean, being a chiropractor, getting numbers like that back, it's like, yes, great. Because if 60% is back related, well, naively you should think, well, then you could reduce the days lost due to sickness with 60%, because I mean, that's what we are experts at, taking care of back problems. And then you call in, then you have all the employees for a checkup. So you check them out, you have, first you do motion palpation, you have talks with them, and you use the questionnaire to go through these things. So you discuss there you go, okay. I thought it was just the British electricity. One strike again or something like that. So basically you make a case history on every employee. And out of this case history you make a short-term treatment plan. I mean, if they have acute problems, you'll get them straight. You have them X-rayed or find out what's wrong with them. You get a short-term treatment plan, which could be chiropractic care, could be other things as well. It depends what's wrong with them. If they don't have any problems at the moment, but you still find that the work they're doing should put some strain on their back, and people who's doing work in that area has a tendency to back problems, you make a long-term treatment plan. You tell them, okay, I'd like to see you in a month just to check out that you're not getting any problems. That's the preventive care. It's like going to the dentist every 6 months to make sure you don't have any cavities. And I feel there's a very important thing for chiropractic to do as well. I mean, taking responsibility. Not taking responsibility for your patient's health, but taking responsibility for your patient. And there's a big difference in that, because of course what you want to teach your patient is to take responsibility for their own health. But we as chiropractors are going to give them the tools to be able to take responsibility for their own health. And again, that's learning everything else outside just being able to adjust. I mean, I take it for granted that every chiropractor is a very good adjuster. So I mean, of course, because I mean, if you can't adjust, you can't be a chiropractor anyway. So of course, that you have to learn, no doubt about that. And then you have to learn all the things around it. So it's like, I'll be jumping back and forth because this is not kind of anything you're going to be tested on. Well, it is when you get out and practice, and you're going to figure out if you learn any of this. But you know, it's like adjusting is. I mean, I feel that you can teach a monkey to adjust. I mean, that's just something you do. But you have to know when to adjust, how often to adjust, and who to adjust, and what adjustment to use for what problem, and that kind of stuff. And then you go on with these patients or with these employees, and then after you have treated them and you get them well, the people on the short-term treatment scheme, they feel better, then you get them on a long-term treatment scheme. Then you have their attention because you already helped them. So now you get into back school. So now you start teaching them, you know, what they can do to prevent the problem to reoccur. And before I got into the companies like treating the employees, I did a lot of back schools. Went out giving speeches and stuff like that. But the funny thing is, if you come into a company where you only give the back school, a lot of the employees, they just sit like that and they think, well, I don't have a problem, so they don't listen. Because you haven't proven yourself to them. They feel, well, I mean, why should I bend my knees just to help the company so I won't get any days lost? So back school without kind of having had the hands on the employees doesn't work as well. And also I think it's very naive to talk about prevention. When you get, if you are asked to come out to a company to give a back school because they want to prevent problems, they probably already had a lot of problems, because if they hadn't had the problems, they wouldn't think to bring you out there to teach the employees to lift properly. But once you got a back problem, I mean, your back problem doesn't go away from lifting properly. You have to fix the problem first, and then you can prevent. So basically what I say is you have to heal the problem or fix the problem before you can prevent it. And that's why I don't start with the back school when I get into a company. I start with all the employees, get them through, fix them. And once you have fixed them, then you can start teaching them how to prevent the problem to come back. And once you have done that, then during you're doing all these things, of course you're doing an evaluation of the plan, of the company or of the office. You walk around and you check it out, what's wrong. But see, what's also very exhilarating about this kind of work is you get a patient in your clinic. In the big companies, you actually set up the clinic within the company. So you're there every day, or every second day, or once a week, whatever. It depends the ambition level of the company. How much do they want to reduce the days lost due to back problems? But then you're there, the employees come in, the employee comes in and have a back problem, and you go, well, you check the back problem out, and you say, well, okay, you got a low dose, blah, 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 and you fix it for them. They feel better. And then, of course, as always, you ask, why? Why do you have this problem? And most patients say, well, I don't know, I didn't do it. And then you have to start digging, you know, say, well, when did it happen? And then you find out, okay, maybe it's where you're working. And because you're in the office, then you can take the patient by the hand and you walk up there. And that's a great thing, because out in the clinics, I mean, then you can just guess and you can try to teach the patient to adjust the chair right or the table right. Here you can go up and solve the problem also. So there you fix the patient's back, and now you can go up and fix the reason for the patient's bad back. And then you can teach them not to do it again. So I mean, that way your treatment will hold up a lot longer, and of course your results will hold up a lot longer. And then you start changing the stats, because then it really starts dropping. And then you become very popular with the people who runs offices, the owners and those. So it's a win-win-win situation you're creating. It's a great situation for you, because I mean, you're there, you get 700 patients there, just boom. So I mean, you make good money and you make good results, and it's a lot of fun working as a chiropractor in this kind of work. It's a win situation for the employees, because they get free chiropractic care. They get somebody who really want to decrease their days lost. They want to, you know, they won't get the back problems they had before. And it's a win situation for the company, because I mean, they don't have to pay so as much in insurance premiums. They don't have to pay as much back to people who gonna come in and take over when somebody is sick. I mean, the productivity of the company is a lot better like that. So, and once you do that, it's just like patients. I mean, a company is like one big patient. The person who runs this company will talk to somebody else who runs another company. They're going to say, God, since we got this deal going in our company, I mean, the effectivity has skyrocketed, and people are not sick anymore. I mean, not the same rate. So what is it really that is cutting down on these days lost due to back problems? I mean, I think one of the main reasons is that you're there every day. So people will tend to contact you a lot faster. I mean, when I started in the company, I have paid employees coming in, and they would say, I mean, they would really have back problems, and they would say, well, it's basically nothing. I mean, I had this for many years, so I mean, oh, I can live with this. And now they come into the clinic and they go, oh God, Ole, man, it's really bad, because when I do like that, I feel a little pain down here. So what you have created is that you have created a lot higher awareness of what your body tells you. I mean, you know, people in a plan like that won't go and eat four pills or 5 pills before they see me. They'll go up and see me first, because, hey, they might as well, I'm there. So you are the first one to take care of them right away, so you can go in and give them, and there are light adjustments as well. I mean, if the back is really locked up, I mean, you have to go in there and pound on it for several days in a row. But if patients come early with just a little problem, I mean, you just have to give them a little treatment. And of course, that's nicer for the patients, feels better, and they get well better. So I mean, again, a win-win situation. So of course, I mean, that's the same we want to do out in the clinics. I mean, I think we should do. We should teach our patients to come, you know, earlier with the problems. We shouldn't end up like our grandparents with the teeth. I mean, we shouldn't just come to the dentist when we want to have a tooth pulled out. That's how it was 50 years ago. I mean, you wouldn't go for regular dental care 50 years ago. I mean, sometimes the tooth just fell out by itself. And I mean, that's what we want to teach our patients. I mean, we're seeing, I know there's a lot of old people seeing their student clinic, and you see how an old back looks when you haven't taken care of that for a whole life. And you also know how little you can do for it. I mean, it's very irritating to get like a 70-year-old lady in who's totally osteoporotic, who comes to a chiropractor, because I mean, wow, what can you do? You can do a little trick upon you. I mean, you can't do a lot for this patient. I mean, it would be great if you could do it. But I mean, it's not like you should, well, you can't help. Then you should think, wow, man, I mean, I want to help prevent that somebody else ends up like this. And the only way you can do that is, I like to compare people with cars. I mean, if you take care of your car, if you regularly change the oil, and if you regularly have service on the car, I mean, the car will last longer, of course. Of course, it also depends the way you drive the car. But I mean, again, the harder you drive the car, the more service you have to put on. So I mean, again, if you go out now, I just made a deal with a big post office in Denmark. And all of these postmen, they really work hard. They run up and down stairs and they carry loads of newspaper and stuff like that. So of course, I see that they need chiropractic care more often than some of the people who sit and work. And you know, it's harder to teach a postman to do his work right, because it can only be done in this way. Because if he should do it the right way, he probably couldn't do it at all. And so it depends what kind of work they do, what kind of treatment they're gonna get. But still, it's the same result at the end of the day. Chiropractic really works in this area. To get back to SID, the union I started with, after 3 years there, we have now reduced, the last statistics we got back was we have now reduced the days lost with about 40% in 3 years. And before we started, they had a deal going with something called BST, which is called Bedriftssundhedstjenesten in Danish. And BST mainly are concerned with prevention. That's all they do. Actually, it stands in that they are not allowed to touch people. They go in and if there's a lot of back problems in a company, in an office, what they do, they go in and measure and find out the tables are right, the chairs are right, and they give recommendation with light and stuff like that. They concentrate a lot on ergonomics, which is good, but again, they don't have any results. BST hasn't moved one day lost due to back problems the last 5 years. They made a survey themselves to find out, mainly in the office area, in the sitting on the job area. There they haven't had any results at all. And that's because they are not asked to come until there's problems. So once you have a neck problem or a low back problem or something, because the chair or the table is wrong, somebody comes out and they adjust the chair and the table. But of course your low back problem doesn't go away. Actually, it often gets worse, because now at least you adjusted to the table was too high or too low, so all of a sudden somebody come and change it. It's like if you have a low back pain because you have a short right leg, and the only treatment is putting in a cork saw. The patient get much worse. Maybe you should put in a saw, but before you do that, you have to fix the back first. Because if you just put in the saw and not fix the back, the patient get much worse. Because they are locked up here. They got the subluxation and the fixation, and you start changing these things, then you have problems. So that's why when we got in, we started to put the employee in focus, and then we fixed the things around them. And I think that's very good. That's probably a lot of you thinking, well, okay, that sounds very good, but how do we get into these companies? It's not something you just call up and say, hey, I would like to get a deal with you. And that's true, that's true. Of course you use your patients, the patient already got. One good way to do it is if you have 4 or 5, 6 patients from the same company, then you can call this company up and say, well, I noticed that I have a lot of patients coming from your company, and we really don't know why the problem is occurring, but obviously there are some problems at your company. I would be glad to come down and take a look at it. Maybe we can have a meeting and I look around and see if I can pinpoint some of the things that should be changed. And then you're in there. And then if you pinpoint a few things and they say, wow, that's a smart thing, then you can talk about that then you can get into the prevention. Then you can start talking about it. You could probably cut a lot of the cost down for this plan because a lot of the people are getting sick in this country. And then gradually, at the beginning you won't get a big contract because you're going to prove yourself first. Once you prove yourself and you show that it worked. This company I'm working with, 40 per in cost. Hey, it's best to negotiate your next contract. Because they're saving a lot of money on what I'm doing. So of course you have to prove yourself. You have to use your patients to go back to the company to say, this guy's good. He got a good idea. And then there's a lot of material that you can use. I will show a video. It's something I work with. It's called United Back School of America. Some of these things are American. I mean, take the hallelujah away, because I mean Americans got a little bit of hallelujah, but under the hallelujah they also got some very good information, because what the Americans are, they're very focused on results. So that sometimes to us it becomes a little nauseating. But I mean, it is. I'll show a short video if I can work this out first. Good job.
Heroes. Whether you are in heavy industry, light industry, or office and clerical work, back injury is the #1 cause of injury loss in your business today. Both in days lost and in dollars spent, back injury remains the giant threat. Back injuries result in more days lost from work than any other single cause, including the common cold. And more days are spent in the hospital for back injuries than any other condition, except childbirth and its related problems. As a result, insurance claims for back injuries have skyrocketed, and that translates into higher and higher workers' compensation and health insurance premiums. Many insurance carriers are now insisting on pre-employment physicals and back education programs for employees. Some carriers are asking that up to 10% of premium costs be invested in back school education. The Academy of Industrial Health Consultants is an organization of doctors interested in reducing back injuries in the workplace. This is done in a 4-step procedure. 1, pre-employment physicals to screen potential employees with back anomalies. 2, back schools to educate the workers and make them responsible for their backs. 3, plant evaluations to reduce potential accident risk. 4, short-term, low-cost regimes in the treatment and rehabilitation of back injury problems. The effects of this and similar programs have been extremely good. Clayton General Hospital of California reduced their annual back injury expenditures from $118,000 in 1979-80 to $27,000 in 1980-81. And to $18,000 in 1981-82 with a back care program alone. American Built Right moved from $215,000 in 1979 to $48,000 in 1980 and $13,000 in 1981. Membership in the Academy is limited to doctors, including medical doctors, chiropractors, and osteopaths. Physical therapists, physician assistants, and other professionals may assist the doctor, but are not members in the Academy. The twofold goal of the Academy is to reduce the incidence of back injury in the workplace and return back injury employees to work in a faster and less expensive manner. Pre-employment physicals eliminate those people who are high-risk back cases. These brief screenings utilize orthopedic tests, previous history, x-rays, and muscle evaluation as a low-cost, single-step procedure to prevent back injury incidents. The back school consists of 2 parts. First is a plant evaluation. Emphasis is placed on reducing injury factors without sacrificing productivity. Second is the actual back care class for employees. This is composed of a videotape and personal instruction in areas including lifting, bending, standing, and general care of the back. The videotape and lecture is followed by obstacle course evaluations for the employees. Here, employees are evaluated in their back use techniques. A special session in the back school discusses the disadvantages of serious back injury to a worker, including loss of pay, future uninsurability, and potential loss of value to the company. This reduces incidents of employees who may try to profit from their minor back injuries. The videotape entitled Real Heroes also treats those people who avoid injuries throughout their lives as the real heroes. Back injuries are treated differently depending on the type of doctor involved, but all physicians in the Academy of Industrial Health Consultants know that low costs and fast returns to work create a good relationship between your company and his office. While you may not presently have need for all 4 areas discussed earlier, that is, pre-employment physicals, plant evaluations, back schools, and back care for workers' compensation cases, you are encouraged to use the doctors from the Academy of Industrial Health Consultants as much as possible to curb healthcare costs.
Good. Stuff like that, that's like what you would call a motion video. You could kind of send that to companies first. You should never just send something. I mean, you should always contact somebody first. But it's of course, statistics are always real good in proving what you want to do or getting in there and having the talk. And videos are now getting, there's a lot of good material out there to show. In Denmark, one of the real sore thumbs is pre-employment physicals. It's like, the union doesn't like it, and in general, a lot of people don't like that because it's like, well, how far do you have to go in the pre-employment physical? I mean, should you take blood samples? Do they have AIDS? Do they have this and that? But I mean, in the back area, I mean, I think a pre-employment physical is the right thing to do for the patient, for the employee the most. I mean, let's say that somebody's applying for a job in Scandinavian Airlines suitcase department to carry heavy loads every day. I mean, I think a guy like that should be treated like when Brian Laudrup would want to play for Glasgow Rangers or something like that. I mean, you're gonna find out, is the guy fit for that job, because it's a very physical job. And a guy like that, I think it's the right thing to have check his spine, check out if there's any problems in it. If you really don't know, you should take an x-ray. I mean, and if you find out that the guy have potential back problems, I mean, you do him a great favor by telling him that you shouldn't have a job like this. I don't see any wrongdoing in that. Actually, I call that prevention. But that's one of the things, you have to, people will, you'll run into trouble with that, but still, chiropractors run into trouble with a lot of things. And I think believe in what you do. I'm not saying that you should believe what I believe, but I'm just saying that you should believe in what you do. I think that's important. I think it was BJ or D.D. Palmer who said that 2 guys come out of the same school, had the same grades, had the same possibilities. One guy made it, one guy didn't. The guy who makes it is the one who believes in what he's doing. I mean, you really gotta, before you go out and do something, you gotta believe it. So that's very, very important. I could talk all day about this, how to do it in the work area stuff, but I want to kind of focus on why chiropractic is best. I mean, this is a great forum to do it in, because I'm sure you all will agree. Because, I mean, of course, there's other treatment forms of back problems. There's other ways to prevent people to get tension or myosis or whatever they're called in companies. I mean, there's massage, there's zone therapy, there's all kind of different treatment forms. But they all take they take a long time, first of all. I mean, if you're going to get a good quality massage, it takes at least 30 minutes. And you have to take a shower afterwards and blah, blah, blah. So it takes at least an hour to get a good quality massage. So no company will invest in that, to have a masseur walking around and that people have to leave their work for an hour to get a massage. I mean, nobody will invest in that. Zone therapy is very popular in Denmark. Some companies have started using it, and most of them have stopped using it again, because Zone therapy is also called reflexology. And it takes about 30 minutes as well. It doesn't have any short-term relief. It's a long-term thing. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't work. Actually, I work very close with a zone therapist, and the combination between chiropractic and zone therapy is very good. But in a company regime, it takes too long time and it doesn't work. Chiropractic doesn't take very long. I mean, it's effective. In the States, they call it the doctor's or the businessman's doctor, because I mean, people don't want to spend a lot of time getting treated. They just want to get well. I mean, we all know it. I mean, if we have to go to the dentist, God, I mean, it's a pain in the ass sitting waiting 10 minutes in the waiting room. You have to spend half an hour there, and you can't. And it's like it's a break in your day you don't need. I mean, you'd rather go out and play golf or be at your in your clinic making money or whatever. So nobody likes to be in a clinic. I mean, they would like to get well. They hate to be sick. And that's where chiropractors are very good, because adjustments works real good. You don't have to bring out the Johnson's baby oil and all these other things. I mean, the adjustment is good in itself. And then, of course, loosen up a little trigger point and this and that, but it's the adjustment that works. No doubt about it. I can see that so obvious in this company. When I started in the company, we looked through the questionnaire and we saw that about 6–7% of the people in this company had seen a chiropractor before. And that is basically more or less like out in the real world. Only 6–7%. I think it's 8% now in Denmark that sees chiropractors. I mean, God, we don't have to worry about anything, because the statistic at the same time say that 85% of the grown population gets problems in the low back. And that's only in the low back. So I mean, that should be working enough for everybody. We just have to go out there and tell them that we're the one that can help. Because that's almost 80% who's not getting the right treatment. But after being in the company now for 3 years, 95% of the people there swears to chiropractic because it helps. So I mean, again, that's interesting. I mean, I got my little environment in there with 700 people, and I can more or less do what I like with them, but I mean, I have to do something that works, and chiropractic works. 95% of the people in there wouldn't use it if it didn't work. So that's a good thing about chiropractic. It's a good thing about anything. I mean, you can sell something once, but you can't sell it the second time if it didn't work the first time. So that's why once you're out in these companies, I mean, you have to do a good job. It works best if you are there every day, of course, because a lot of the days that the cuts of days lost come because people wake up with a back problem, and usually they would have stayed at home. But now, because they know there's a chiropractor, they can get treated at the work, they go in there, because then they get the treatment. Why stay home and be sick when you can go to work and get well? So hey, that's the difference. So that's one of the reasons. And the chiropractic care, it takes, once you know the patient, and once the patient learns to come before the problem is very severe. I mean, the treatment can last for 5 minutes, doesn't have to take longer. So the employee leaves the workplace and are back in 10 minutes. So nobody complains about that. And that's another strong point for chiropractic. But also we have to remember what is chiropractic, and why is it working. And I'm seeing a lot of chiropractors who's kind of more and more going into all kind of modalities that, I mean, you don't need that. I mean, they go into, I call it light and sound, but I mean, it's like laser and this and beep and bop, and I don't see why you don't need it. I think one of the reasons, for example, in England, I think a chiropractic treatment costs about 25 quid, something like that. And I think that's too much. So the chiropractor is out there, and he thinks it's too much too. So what does he do? He doesn't reduce the price, no. He starts doing other things, because he wants to justify the 25 pounds. So he goes like, well, that was an adjustment. That took 1 minute. Oh, God. And it's 15 minutes left, because I got to justify that it costs 25 quid. So they start doing all kind of other things. And I think that's stupid. Why not cut the price? Well, And when the price is less, more people can afford it. And often the people that can't afford it are actually the ones who need it. So I think there's things in that as well. And talking about being able to afford it, that's one of the reasons I also got into industrial health. In my clinic, I saw all these patients coming in with problems in their back. And once we got talking with them, we found out that the reason for the problem in their back was at their work. And I say, well, I think you should call in sick because that way I can fix you quick. Oh, no, I couldn't do that because it's not very good, you know, they're cutting down on employees and stuff. So, okay, so they stay at work and thereby they get more treatments because, of course, if a patient doesn't go home and rest after the treatment, then the treatment doesn't work as well. So very quickly they get 50–60% more treatments because they have to go back to work, where eventually was the reason for it. But does the work pay for the treatment? No, the patient has to pay for itself. And I feel that's not fair. I mean, you do work for somebody and you get injured, and then you have to pay for the treatment yourself so you can go back and work for them and get injured again. So the responsibility for getting these people well lies within the company. And that's why I got into that. And that's strong arguments as well when they contact the company. To say, hey, that's a responsibility. It's quite big in America. There's another reason for that. And that's because of they sue each other all the time. And the way that system is set up, even a poor guy can sue somebody because it's built on no cure, no pay. So the reason that a company in the States does a lot to prevent injuries is because they're afraid that the employee will come back and sue the company. But still, it doesn't really matter why they do it, as long as they do it. So I mean, and I looked a little bit into the things here in England. I see that is growing a bit too. So that could be a helping factor for us to get in there. But of course, we have to go in and know these things. Doesn't matter what the leverage is, as long as we get in there and help the employees, help the people. I will spend the last, I think, half an hour getting a little bit into ergonomics. To talk about some of the basic things that we should know when we get into a company. I got some slides I want to show, and I got about 10 of these, which is just drawings of what's on the slides, and you can just come up and take it afterwards, and you can kind of fill in the English title to it. But it's just, I mean, this material I'm going through now is what I will present when I'm in the company. It's what I will say to the employee. So it's not like you're going to think, God, does he think we're stupid or something like that? Because I'll just go through what I would say to these employees. And of course, a lot of this is built on common knowledge, and it's built on what we do all day. I mean, first of all, this is some of the slides that show when I'm out talking to the company when I'm trying to sell the idea. And this is a very good statement. I mean, everybody can understand that. Now it doesn't work. What was the other? And those are the stats we talked about before. They mentioned that on the video as well. And of course, this is money. And when you show these stats, of course, you go in and say what you believe you can change in this, and what chiropractic care you do for someone. Money, you just flow out the hole. Just some pictures give people the general idea. There's no magic bullets in saving this. I mean, you can't just buy some special table or some special chair and then nobody will get problems. I mean, you have to go in and take care of your employees. First, they are the most important thing, and you're the biggest expenditure. So, I mean, you really have to take care of that. These are just some of the companies that does a lot of work in industrial health. And just tell a little bit about what we will do. See, the thing is, very often when you study chiropractic, then you get into other things, you know, and you sit as a chiropractor, why should I learn this? Why should I learn about that? Why should I just general diseases and stuff like that? See, when you're in a company like that, I mean, the employees will come to you with any problem. And of course, a lot of them you can't help. But see, they would probably have walked around with this problem for another month before they would have gone to their GP with it. So you can refer them on very quickly. So again, in other areas where we can't help, we can make sure that they get the right treatment quicker, and thereby again cutting down on costs. So I mean, we are actually the GP in the area, but also we have some tools that we can fix the main reason, you know, the low back problems and all that. I mean, nobody wants surgery. And then again, just a little bragging on what you can do and stuff like that. So I'll go quick over that. These are just normal treatment forms. You would like to get in there. Or then. This is about why you will have, why it's important for the company to have the clinic at the plant or at the company, because I mean, it's important that they treat it there. They feel that that's why they're going to be helped. Of course, some of this can seem like we're on the wrong side. I mean, it's all about just licking the companies up their ass, but I mean, it ain't. I mean, it's just a way to get in there and help. I mean, there's no philanthropists out in these companies. I mean, they want to have productivity, and they want to have that their employees are at work, and if they're healthy at work, I mean, then they can produce more. We can make them healthy, and thereby helping the employees. So there's nothing wrong in that. Here's some reasons why you want to get people at work as quick as possible, because I mean, as soon as you've been out there for a while, I mean, they don't come back. And there's other reasons. See, now in many companies, if you get a back problem, you call into the company and say, well, I'm sick, I have a back problem. You say, okay, call back when you're well. There's nobody saying, well, what are you going to do? I mean, it's like, should maybe some recommendations and stuff like that. You just left there and call back when you're well again. Or come in with a note from your doctor saying how long you will be sick. There's no, you know, we don't help people. I mean, of course, a lot of this is very money fixated, but that you'll notice that when you get out there. That is how it goes. But if you can make a company save money by getting all their employees well, they'll do that. And then you help the employees. Okay, this is one of the areas where we really can make the big differences is in companies where people sit a lot. I said before that 2/3 of everybody who get back problems actually are sitting down. It's having a job where they sit all day. And that's because when you sit down, you reduce the lumbar curve, and thereby you put a lot of pressure on the L5 disc, and thereby you create problems down there. And that's about a 40% higher pressure on the lowest disc when you sit down compared to when you walk around. So, I mean, of course, there will be 40% more problems when you sit down. And this is like when you sit really erect and very nice, not when you slump and when you have crossed legs and stuff like that. So here's an area where we can go in and benefit a lot from teaching them something. Because if people is having a job where they sit all day, then you can teach them to stand up every now and then, to do light exercise and stuff like that. Of course, it's harder if you go into a big production company where they lift heavy-duty loads all day. Because, I mean, you can't go in and say, well, you shouldn't lift the heavy-duty loads. I mean, if you do that, you won't be employed in this company for very long. So of course, we have to find out. There's so many companies out there, so we might as well focus on the ones that we get the best results, and then we can get into the next and the next. So I'm working a lot in an area where people sit a lot. And sitting in the job, I mean, there's many things you do. You want to fit the workspace so it works right. You want to go in and check what's the common complaints they have. You want to teach them to relax, and you want to teach them to do exercises. And all this you do after you have fixed a problem. So you go in and you explain them a little bit about, I mean, you're going to give the employees respect. I mean, you're going to teach them how things are. You shouldn't just tell them. So you tell them, okay, when you stand up, you explain a little bit about the curves, how the lumbar spine is, how the cervical spine is, and that they should try to keep that, whatever they sit on their kitchen chair or in the office chair. And you explain a little bit about, you know, of course the spine is better when you stand erect. Talking about that, I mean, of course, knowing how the nerves leave the spine. I mean, there's a nerve leaving the spine on each side, between every vertebra. So, I mean, the spine is strongest when you're straight. And that's when you talk, when you sit, when you lie. So, you want to teach these people not to do anything wrong, because if they don't do anything wrong, they don't get sick and your program works better. So, I mean, it's important to go in and teach them these things. Very important. And then you go in and say, okay, there's special areas you should be aware when somebody sits. On the left side, you see the right way. You should think a lot about the angle 90. Because, I mean, it should be 90 degrees here, 90 degrees there, 90 degrees there. The shoulders should hang down, and when they work, it should be just about 90 degrees here. So it's very easy. As I said, ergonomics is easy. It's workload. It's common sense. When the arms are like that, you shouldn't have your arms out here, you shouldn't have them back there. Hanging down, then you don't use the muscles. You have your head erect, that by the muscles in the neck doesn't have to work. And those are the areas usually you have the problems. Here you got a thing that's wrong. And there's a few ways. I can see a lot of them around here. I'll probably sit like that myself, but it doesn't really matter. And so, then you get into the desk. What you want to teach these people also is to organize themselves. Because very often, the reason for getting problems is because you get stressed. You get stressed when you can't find the things you need. So you want to teach them to have a good organization on their desk, always know that books are there, this is there, this is there. Also, you do this to show that you are interested in other things than just the back. You're going to show that we know that. It's like a whole circle. You can't just take one part of it. You have to cover the whole thing. And here's a good example of somebody who organized himself very well. And people go, oh, well, that's smart. Because you're talking about a primary area and a secondary area on things you work with. The primary area is everything you can reach with your underarm. And things you work with should be there. The things you use the most should be there. The secondary area is what you can do without reaching, actually. I mean, you should kind of keep your back straight all the time. So everything outside this area shouldn't be there. Because every time you get into these kind of movements, then you're putting pressure on the low back, on the mid back, and the neck. And thereby, eventually getting problems in that area. And where's the phone usually in the office? Over there, all the time. Boom, you do that movement again and again and again, you have the problem. So you want to teach them not to do that. So that's what I'm talking about here, the two areas. And you should teach them to don't have things, behind you where you have to twitch and turn. You want to teach them to stand up as often as possible. So keep the things away. And you could think about that as well when you study at home. I mean, try to have your bookshelf over there. So every time you need a book, you stand up, you go and take it, and you go back again. Relieving the pressure on your low back, working the venous pump in your legs, and all these things. I mean, it makes sense to get up there and do a little bit of work. Okay, now getting in. When you want to adjust somebody, I mean, usually the table is the stationary part. I mean, that's just sitting there. Okay, now they're getting a lot into tables that can go up and down, but in most companies, the table is the thing that doesn't move. So you have to move the chair around. And it's the upper part of the body. I mean, we're focused on the spine. The spine is the one that we have to work with the 90 degrees thing. So, I mean, if the table is here, then you're missing, you have to have a little stool or something like that to put in there. And then you're sitting the right way. Okay. We chiropractors has the tendency to talk a lot about to have those pillows, angulated pillows. And it depends what kind of work we do. See, if you sit at a desk just writing with your hand, it should be angled in this direction. But if you sit at a computer, it's very important that you rest your back and you have your arm hang down. It should actually be angled in the other direction. If it's angled in the first direction, when you work with a computer, you're actually being pushed into the computer and put a lot of tension in the mid-back. And that gives problems as well. And very often, most companies you come out and you'll see the one on the left side here, they think that's the right way. And here's the thing about the 90-degree angle on the elbow. Okay, the kind of work you do depends. I mean, you should organize yourself compared to the kind of work you do. Most people who work with computers has a tendency, they have some kind of a manuscript that they have to write down to get into the computer. But most people has it like this, like the one on the top left. They have the screen in front of them, they have the keyboard in front of them, and then they have the manuscript on the side, and they sit like that and work all day. They don't look at the screen at all, because that's not interesting. What's interesting is here. So, of course, what you want to teach them is to say, put the matter in front of you and put the screen on the side, because then you're going to sit the right way again. Think straight, very important. And then there's the other way you're going to get some information from a screen, so you sit and look in the screen most day, and then you write a little bit, that's on the top right. And the last thing is you do a lot of writing in your hand, and you only use the keyboard. So don't be very fixated in what you do. You want to teach the people that it should be movable. Okay, here's a few things of how the screen should be situated. The shorter it is between the keyboard and the screen, the higher you should have the table, like shown on the left. Because if it's very short between, you end up sitting like that. Of course, you want to try to work on keeping the lordosis in the neck as much as possible. You want to, everything we learn about how the spine should be, we should try to stay with that. Light is very important. Reflex is one of the biggest problems in companies. I mean, you'll find out, you come out in companies, you see they invested a ton of money in chairs, they invested a ton of money in tables, screens, everything. And you'll have people sitting like that because the light will reflect in the screen. I mean, we all know that thing Sunday afternoon, we're going to see an old Max Bros movie and the sun is shining outside. We can't see anything on the television. You end up sitting in weird kind of thing. So I mean, you have to take care of the whole thing. And again, it's common knowledge. And what you want to do is when you set up a computer station, you want to be in a 90-degree angle to the window. So I mean, if I had a computer, I would put it here, because the window is there and there. So the reflection would hit my colleague, not me. No, but the reflection isn't that strong, so it wouldn't hit your colleague. And at the same time, you shouldn't have the computer too open, because when it's too open, it takes reflection from the light on top and it reflects back in your head. So you want to know all these things. And of course, what you could do, a very good trick, is to put a mirror on the screen, and then if you can see a lamp in this mirror, you should put that lamp away. If you can see a window, you should turn the screen so you can't see the window anymore. Because if you can see the window in the mirror, that will reflect up in your eyes and give problems. At the same time, talking about your eyes, when you work with a computer, you only wink 10% at what you usually do. Computers have, I don't know, some kind of hypnotic effect on people. So that's why people get tired in the eyes, they get red in the eyes. Actually, has if kids work a lot with it, and they have a tendency to get what do you call that? Well, it doesn't matter. I'll go past that. But I mean, it's important that you work on that your eyes doesn't get strained too much. Because if your eyes get strained, you start kind of twisting your head in all kind of different directions. And of course, that will give you problems. Then you get into all other kind of things. You talk a little bit about the noise and all other things that can cause stress at work. And when you're stressed, you start doing things wrong, and then you get bad. Then you get, you talk about the reasons, the different things. Two things can cause back problems. One student movement like that can give a back problem, or you sit in a lot of wrong positions over a long period of time and give a back problem. So you want to get into that. Here's the typical, the eye strain thing I talked about. Of course, over-exaggeration makes you understand it better. But I mean, if people work a lot with computers, they end up seeing it. And of course, I mean, anybody can see what kind of trouble she'll end up with. I mean, that's a good case of carpal tunnel syndrome coming quickly. We've probably got a tennis elbow with that, and we'll have neck problems and headaches and everything. There's another guy. I mean, that looks very good. Everybody can see what's wrong with that. And see there, I got that thing with the chair. It's tilting. It's falling forward into the screen. It's definitely not relaxed on this. And this one we all know. When the neck. I mean, and this, of course, it's good to show these kind of things. People go, oh yeah, everybody remembers it. And when they see the picture, and when you taught them the other thing, now they know. Next time they do it, it's on their own responsibility. They know that they're doing something wrong. What you want to do with all this is you want to give the employees the responsibility of their own health. But you want to give them the tools so they'll be able to take that responsibility. And that's what we do. And here she's sitting too far away from the computer, and that is putting a lot of strain on it. You can see that. And here, see what she's not doing. She's not working with those 90 degrees I was talking about. And that's what, you know, the same picture we had before, and that gives a lot of carpal tunnel syndromes come from this kind of work. Say the chair is too high, so she's sitting there, kind of curling her feet up under the chair, and that will give a lot of pressure here in the bottom there, and that put pressure on the legs, and you'll eventually get varicose veins and all that other kind of shit. Okay, the wallet. The trick with the wallet. Many guys run around with a wallet in their back pocket, and they sit on it all day. And of course, it's like having an extra sole on the shoe. If you walk around with that all day, you'll get back problems. If you sit on a wallet like that, you'll get back problems. And I mean, it's very obvious to see that. The primary headache complaint is headaches. Many headaches, and American survey has shown that just about 80% of headaches is actually coming from the neck. So I mean, that means 80% of headaches we can help. So that's interesting. And here's a few exercises you can do for the neck. We'll get into that kind of stuff. You probably learned that. Here's a little bit about how the computer should be, the screen should be set. I don't totally agree with that they say the one on the right is right. It should be a little higher and shouldn't be that open because it's very easy to get reflex in that area. But the one on the left is that. Stress, irritation, you know, when you're stressed you don't think of all the things you have to remember, and then you do your work wrong and then you get wrong. And this is just, you know, getting into that stress area. You want to talk a little bit about the employees, about how they, you know, they can get through problems. I mean, we all know that, sitting the night before a test, and we're going to think, God, I'll never make it. And we end up making it most of the time anyway. So there's different tricks how to kind of comfort yourself, and these are some of them. So, of course, I mean, you can say that this kind of work is extending way beyond what chiropractic is, but I mean, I don't agree with that, because I mean, where does it start and where does it stop? Information, there's a lot of information out there, but I mean, there's not a lot of knowledge, so we're going to have the knowledge and we're going to teach them to give the employees the knowledge. And then they get into exercise. I'll go through this, is this. Can you turn that off up there? And of course some of this seems very basic, and it is. Ergonomics is very basic, but once you get in there, you want them to take care of your treatment. You will do that in your clinic as well. I mean, once you treated somebody in your clinic, you want to teach them how to take care of them. Many chiropractors, I mean, I have over the years gotten in contact with a lot of new chiropractors who just graduated, and I mean, I just graduated once, and you think that being a good chiropractor, being a good adjuster, that's what all it takes. So you go in, you pound on the patient, they come back 2 days later and it didn't help. You don't understand, you do it again, you do it again. I say that what gets the patient well is 1/3 of treatment, 2/3 of talk. I mean, you're going to explain to the patient how to take care of what you just did to them. You're going to talk with the patient about, I mean, why do you think it happened? I tell you, when you get out, you probably see it in the clinic here, you ask them, why do you have problems? Most of them say, I don't know, I didn't lift anything. Because every patient thinks that lifting a heavy load, that's the only reason you can get a back problem. So I mean, you're going to spend a lot of time talking to the patient about chiropractic, about taking care of chiropractic. You shouldn't have to talk with them about a lot of other things. Of course, small talk is all right. But most of the talk you should do should be patient education. It should be done in a way that this patient can go out and teach somebody else. Because that way, they'll bring another patient. So I mean, it's also selling results. That's what we have to learn too. It's very important. And being a student, I mean, it's not something you have to sit and think, well, okay, I'll get to that in 6 years when I graduate. No. I mean, you should get to it now. You might as well really start working with it now. Being a student is that you can afford to make mistakes. It's now you should go out. Every time you leave college and you sit in a bus, you see somebody sit wrong. Give it a chance, give it a shot, talk to them. Say, well, that's not a good way to sit like that. Some of them will look like you're nuts. Some of them say, well, that's a good point. Well, yeah, I bet you have back problems. Yeah, sure. Now you're already working on your clinic requirements. I mean, start getting out there. Start selling chiropractic. If not for yourself, then for your colleague or for the profession. I mean, we shouldn't be afraid. We got something that works. It's very easy to sell something that works. I mean, I wouldn't like to sell some kind of kitchen appliance or something like that doesn't work. But I mean, chiropractic works. So we shouldn't be afraid. I'll get into that later when I graduated. I mean, I remember my second or third day at work, the chiropractor said, well, okay, next Wednesday, you are set up for a speech. I go, what? So they just set me up. I wasn't even asked if I wanted to do it. They just sent me out to some kind of, I think it was a religious kind of thing at church or something like that. But I mean, hey, they get back problems as well. So I mean, but we have to get out there and talk about it. I mean, it should be like a hobby. You know, like every time you're out there, if you're at the repair shop with your car, I mean, the guy's fixing your car, and you might as well give him a little piece of advice how to work. And the guy might think, wow, hey, maybe you could help me. And a lot of you are in clinic now, so I mean, get them in clinic. So I think basically that's what I want to cover. I'll probably get back on some of these things, and I mean, if you guys have questions and stuff like that, I mean, it's not like a set program. I'll just try to go through what Richard asked me, and then what we talked about would be interesting to talk about. But we can get back to talking about industrial health later today if there's any questions on it. Is there any questions right now?
You said in the beginning you have the compressor that can come as often as you want, or whereas you're there, they can come up. Do you find that it's a problem some people sort of tend to come almost, say, 3-4 times a week because they got the clinic or they got...
Well, the thing is, and then it's up to you. I mean, you don't have to treat them every time. I mean, and there's nothing wrong in somebody wanting to just leave whatever they're doing for 5 minutes. If they want to come up and have a little chat with you, you can give them a little advice, and you can. And if they keep complaining, then you're going to find out why. What is the reason? Of course, you have to talk about what they do at home as well. No, I don't see a problem in that. I mean, it's a problem if the chiropractor is there, give them a crack every time they come up, because then you really haven't seen the light. You can say that. But no, I don't see that as a problem. I mean, would you see that as a problem?
No, I just find in the clinic here that some people have been here some 150 treatments over 3 years and think, well,
Yeah, that's because they feel obligated to help a lot of chiropractors through school. No, but I mean, see, that's the thing, you know, when they probably also come here to talk, and probably lonely people and stuff. And that's the thing, I mean, we are not just bone crackers. You'll see that in clinic as well. And I mean, I have patients say, well, I think I'll see you in 3 months' time. I think, oh no, please, could I come in 1 month's time? I feel better with that. So what should you do? Say, no, you can't come. Of course you say, no, okay, if you feel better with that. As long as you kind of give them the treatment they need. In 1 month, they don't need a lot of treatment. And of course you explain it to them and say, well, you could last for 3 months. I mean, that's up to you. Information, share your knowledge with them. Yeah?
Did you approach the company's code with this slide? How did you approach the companies initially that wanted to?
See, as I said earlier, very often the employees often start in your clinic as a patient. That's a very good way to get it. Some of the patients at my place was people who was representative of the employees. I don't know what you call that. Tillidsfolk. What do you call that?
Yeah, union reps.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, of course, if you get a union rep, I mean, then you're lucky because then you can kind of sell it that way. And the most companies I work with, actually, I got in through the employees, which of course is nicer because then they have faith in you. Because often if you come the other way, the employees first will think, well, okay, what's this guy up to? I mean, will he, squeal on us and say, well, this guy got a back problem, send him out in the cold. Of course, I mean, we are covered by, silent codex, so of course we can't say anything. But it usually takes you about a month or two to get the trust and then from the employees. But then once you have 1, 2, 3, then they all start coming. I said earlier, you start in a company, you often see it's like out in the real world, 7-8% know about chiropractic. At the end of the day, 80-90% start using it.
Just a little bit about the same thing. The American slides, the American information, the American business. Is that useful to use in Denmark?
Yeah, sure it is, because, I mean, they do the same thing. I mean, of course, the numbers are a lot higher because we're only 5 million people in Denmark. But and there are 255 people, Americans, but they basically do the same thing. And I mean, so some of the things you can just go over and you can say, well, this is American, you can make a little joke about it, but at the end of the day, it's results that count. So, and that works, of course. It does, because, I mean, when a company invited you in, I mean, what they want is to cut down on these costs. And they want to make sure that most of the people they employ are at work and not at home in bed. So no, I find that works.
So the Americans have a tendency of,
As I say, it's a little bit too much, but see, you are there too. You don't send the slideshow and they watch it themselves. You're there to kind of explain the different things. So no, I don't see that as a problem.
You accept 7 hours a day on the...
I mean, I'm in working with companies about 4 hours a day, and I'm in the clinic the rest of the day. And then I work a little bit with. I said just about half an hour every day on promoting chiropractic, sitting down, finding out, okay, what should I do today? How could I spread the word of chiropractic today? Should I contact a new company? Or should I contact the newspaper? I mean, because chiropractic got so much to offer. So if we only focused on getting the next new patient, that's one of the reasons that we are, I think that we're way behind compared to what we can do. Like in Denmark, when I graduated 10 years ago, I mean, people were lining up in front of the office to get chiropractic care. So, I mean, you really didn't have to do anything to tell about chiropractic, because, hey, you had plenty to do. So nobody went out and said anything about chiropractic. Then all of a sudden, and then every young kid wanted to be a chiropractor. And then when I was in the States, I think we were about 70 Danes there studying at the same time. Because, wow, man, we've all been to a chiropractor and people are lining up. But of course, all of a sudden, there's too many chiropractors compared to the amount of clinics, not compared to the amount of patients. And then, oops, somebody didn't do the job right, because now all of a sudden we've got to start the information. And I kind of said at least half an hour, maybe an hour, because I mean, you do it sitting in the car, but thinking about it all the time. I mean, you shouldn't sit whining in your clinic when you don't have a patient. You should think, oh, how do I get patients, instead of whining.
Do you recommend some of the postgraduate programs they have in some American colleges about industrial consulting?
Do I recommend it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think industrial health is a great way for chiropractors to get out of the offices and to get into the communities. I mean, to get in there and make a difference and show that we really can make a difference. And it's such a powerful area to do it. because that's an area where you really can show results. And so many before you have tried it, so I mean, you can compare yourself to everybody else. So at the end of the day, it's almost a scientific study. Because somebody else, you tried this kind of modality, this kind, and now you try chiropractic. Oops, that worked. So.
I just wondered whether you sort of working alongside the people who do ergonomics, or whether you do the whole thing on the whole load on your own shoulders.
I mean, see, a lot of companies, when you approach them, already got a contract with BST, which is it's a semi-public thing where, you know, mainly it's physiotherapists, and I talked about that a little earlier. And but very often they don't get very good results. So when you contact the company, you tell them, well, you know, you'll do basically the same things as they do and more, and it won't cost them. So it's you know, when I look up companies, I find out companies who has this arrangement already, and I tell them that they should get me instead of them. So I mean, you do it yourself, yeah. But then I mean, you can employ a physiotherapist, or I don't know. I mean, you don't have to do all these things yourself. In the beginning, you do it because you don't. I mean, you probably don't have the money to employ somebody, but you don't have to run around and adjust the tables yourself. But it works better if it's you, because you just treated the patient and then the employee, and you follow the employee up, and then you. So it's like in rehab and stuff like that. You know, if you treated a back problem and you send them out to a gym, you know, very often they come back and the gym fucked up what you fixed, instead of you went along and made the rehab area for them. So I mean, I think it's important to have that very close relationship with whether it's your patient, well, the employee will be your patient. So I mean, the close relationship is important.
Yeah, I think I mean, all the video and all makes a lot of sense, and it seems very logical way of approaching. But I've just been listening to the discussions over the last couple of months now, and it seems like chiropractors in that position, they take it very personal. Well, the subluxation, that's our domain. That's
yeah, but I feel that our domain should be preventing the subluxation, and then when it's there, fix it very quickly. You know, I mean, it's like there's no reason to wait around for the problem to happen if you can prevent it.
Do you think there would be a market for chiropractors in schools? Like you talk about chiropractors going into companies where people actually are in a later stage in their life. Would it be good to go into an early stage in going to school?
Definitely, I'll get into that actually in the next session, where we'll be talking about kids and chiropractic, and definitely there will be a tremendous need for chiropractors in that area. Basically, as I said before, now there's, you know, kids are working more and more with computers. I mean, it's like in Denmark there's a band called Gnax. They have a song, you know, they sing about that you don't see kids out on the greens anymore playing football. I mean, they're in there sitting, working with computers, and schools are getting computers, and I mean, you're moving. I feel you're moving the problem about 20 years back, you know, in the wrong direction. Kids will sit more and run around less, and they get the problems much earlier. So we definitely have to get it there, but they won't call us. It's our responsibility to get out there, to get involved in the boards, and school boards, and this and that. Call the school magazines and stuff like that. Because we know we can help, but the rest of it, I mean, you can see 7% use chiropractic, so they don't know. So that's what I mean. Every time you leave school, you know, we have to spread the word. It's not a religion, but I mean, we have to tell what we can do. And I mean, that goes all the way down to kids as well. Yeah?
Sorry, just got another question there. Do you have any experience with gymnastic balls to sit on?
With what?
Gymnastics ball, to sit on gymnastics balls instead of chairs.
I read something about them, and I think anything that changes the usual routines is good. I don't think the gymnastic ball does it you know, by itself, but I think it's a good idea. I don't think that people should be sitting on the same chair the whole day. there's those stocky chairs, Norwegian thing where you sit on your knees, but that's not good for a long period of time. Then you get knee problems, but it's good for an hour, and then you set another thing, and then you sit on the floor. The newest thing in ergonomics is having tables you can lift up so you stand and do your work. So I mean, what you want to create is a kind of a thing where you change the precision as much as possible.
Okay, we'll take a break there for half an hour.